Okay, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Now today I'm here with a different kind of video. I've only done one of these in the past, but I asked you guys over on Twitter what video you wanted me to film today, and all of you pretty much said story time video. Just before I begin, if you are new to my channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn my post notifications on down below, just because that means the world to me. I meant to film this ages ago, so if you watch my vlogs you might remember me having a bit of a rant about this, but I said I'm gonna save the rant for a full-on story time. Today I am here with the story of the tragic time I had in London once. So basically, I reckon most of you are familiar with the fact that I go down to London quite a lot, like just quite often really. Everything YouTube related is generally based in London and I do find myself there quite often. But this specific time I was down there by myself. Now usually I go with like friends or I meet people there, but this time I was completely on my own. I'd been at an event the night before and stayed over in London, and then the next day I was there completely on my own, and just because of the way the trains had fallen it meant that I had the full day in London on my own, and I actually quite enjoy that. I like being in London by myself. I don't know, that's probably quite strange, but I just really like being there, so I didn't think anything of it. But everything that could have gone wrong in this day that I had on my own went wrong. Like literally everything. So I am going to tell you the story of my tragic day in London that I had about a month ago now. In fact, I think it was exactly a month ago today. So there you go. Enough time has passed. I'm over the tragedy and I'm going to tell the story for you guys. Okay, so it starts with the morning. The morning was reasonably successful. I actually popped into my dad's work, and you might have seen the vlog, so I'm not going to go over what happened exactly. But the first tragic thing that occurred was when I realised that I'd actually dressed for the complete wrong season. So I was there in like a woolly top and jeans, and it was 30 degrees. So I went into Primark and I was like, this is fine, I'll just buy a top and get changed and it'll be fine. Although I didn't want to change out of my jeans, so I did spend the whole day in black skinny jeans in 30-degree heat and on the tube. So by the end of the day I was a sweaty mess basically. But anyway, I bought this top from Primark. The whole thing seemed like it was going well. I also bought these hair bubbles because I'd not taken any bobbles with me. Stupid, I know. And I'd bought this packet of bobbles. So this is the first thing that went wrong. And it seems small and insignificant, but on top of everything else, it was the icing on the cake of the bad day. So I decided that I would be all educational and take myself for a little visit to the British Museum. Now, I've done most of the museums in London, but I'd never been to this one, so I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll be educational and I'll go there and I'll spend an hour or so inside. It's cooler, it's nicer, and it's educational, so I'll do that. So I got to the British Museum, and obviously at the moment security is really high everywhere. So I got to the front of the queue. I was by myself. I was carrying this huge bag because I was carrying my overnight bag. So that looked suspicious. So then, to add to my suspicious acting, I just went really weird because I didn't know, like, I just felt really awkward as the guy was like rooting through my pajamas and like my knickers and like all stuff in this bag that is just so embarrassing. Like, I was just stood so awkwardly. This guy was like, why do you have so much stuff with you? And I was like, ha, it's an overnight bag. Ha, ha, ha. I knew there was nothing in there that was bad, and he was like, do you have any scissors or knives in your bag? And I had a pair of scissors because I had like a nail, like in my makeup bag I had like a nail thing. So I was like, but then I was like, he knows I'm lying. So I was getting really awkward. So obviously all this stuff was in my bag that I just bought from Primark. So he like took the Primark bag out of my bag, and as it came out, my makeup bag was just like chilling on top with the pair of scissors inside. So I was like, and the guy just looked at me and he was like, just go through, and I was like, I thought I was gonna be like arrested for like carrying scissors or something, and I was on my own and I was just like having a mare. So that was the first issue with going to the British Museum. The second issue appeared when I went inside. So by this point I was ready to get changed into my Primark purchase. I hadn't put the stuff on yet, so I went into the toilets and I got changed and it was fine. I came out of the toilets and I went to tie my hair up. So I opened the packet of hair bubbles, so one of these packets where you get like 100 hair bubbles on a packet, but instead of opening it like a normal person, I just pulled it apart and every single hair bubble just fell off the packet and went everywhere. On the toilet floor, in the sinks, hit the person stood next to me at the sinks, like the packet just kind of exploded. So these hair bubbles were everywhere. So I was like, I'm really sorry, I'm really sorry, I'm really sorry. Like picking all these bubbles up from like the floor because I'd only just bought them and I needed at least one. And also I couldn't leave the other 99 hair bubbles on the floor, so I was like, I'm gonna have to pick them up. So I just really awkwardly stood there with like my overnight bag, like picking these bubbles up, just to re-emphasize the fact that I was on my own the whole time throughout all of this. So it was so embarrassing, and also nobody offered to help me. Like there was loads of people in this toilet and it would have taken like so much less time if somebody had just helped me pick them up, but nobody did. So I was like picking up all these bubbles just looking like an idiot, and I was like, okay, this is not going well. I need to get out of this toilet. So I picked them up really quick and like shoved them loose in my bag, to which they are still loose in that handbag because I just have not got them out of the bag yet. So I went around the museum and it was reasonably successful. I got told off about 4 times for taking pictures of the exhibition, so it didn't go great, but it was, on the whole, it was an alright trip to the museum. It wasn't amazing, but yeah, it was okay. So I left there and I was like, oh, I'll go to Tottenham Court Road for a bit, I'll get some lunch. And I mean, I had just been on Tottenham Court Road to Primark, but like I went back there, I don't really know why. So I went to Tottenham Court Road and I thought, yeah, this will be nice, really nice sunny day, I'll go shopping, I'll get some lunch, I want to buy a book. I like had this plan of what I wanted to do. And I got to Tottenham Court Road tube station. This was where the next incident occurred. And I was coming out of the turnstiles and like going out onto the road. So like actually onto Tottenham Court Road. And there was this man that just like stood trying to get into the turnstile that I was coming out of. Bear in mind, on the tube you can't do that. Like it's not a exit and enter thing. Like there's one turnstile for an exit and one turnstile for an entrance. This guy was trying to get through the exit and I was like, what are you doing? So I'd come through it, but then we got to that awkward point where we were gonna have to move to get past each other. So I moved one way and he moved the same way. So then I moved the other way and he moved that way. And then most people at this point just laugh it off, but no, we both tried to move again and ended up back at this side. So at this point I was laughing. I was like, ha, sorry. And he was like, oh, anyone would think you'd want to be in my way, right? Just to set the scene, this guy was really good looking. He was like older than me by quite a bit, but like good looking. So me being so awkward, why was I like this? I was like, ha 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 ha, yeah. Why did I do that? Like, why did I do that? He was expecting me to come back with like some sarcastic remark or like a jokey thing, and I just like laughed really weirdly, like a really weird laugh, and was like, yeah. Like, what was I doing? He like moved around me, but he actually like moved me out of the way to try and get in the exit. So then, just to make it even more embarrassing, he realised that that wasn't an entrance and we had to walk out together because he was at the wrong side of the tube station. At this point I was like, oh my god, you're following me now, like leave me alone. I was like, Just as I got over that incident, this all happened on the same day, and I'm not even making this up, like I wish I was, but it happened and it would only ever happen to me. So I walked the whole length of Tottenham Court Road and I was just like shopping and browsing, and I eventually found myself in Debenhams, and the Debenhams, I think it's the Debenhams on Tottenham Court Road. Anyway, there's a huge Debenhams somewhere around there. So I went in and I was like, oh, I'll look at the makeup, I might treat myself, I've got some spending money, I'm gonna like buy some makeup. I was stood looking at the Too Faced stand, and there was loads of Too Faced highlighters that I'd never seen before, so I was like, oh, I'll swatch these. So I picked this highlighter up. Oh my god, this was so embarrassing. I'm so sorry if you work in that Debenhams. I picked this highlighter up and I was like, this is nice, like swatching it and like looking at it, just, you know, as you do with makeup. And then this person behind me made me jump, and I mean properly made me jump, but she wasn't talking to me, she was talking to the person next to me, and she was like, is there anything I can help you with? It just scared me, I don't know why. So I jumped like that and dropped the highlighter. Oh my god, this is so embarrassing. And the actual product came away from the pan, and so like the packaging was in my hand and the product was on the floor. So this highlighter, this really expensive like £28 Too Faced highlighter, was on the floor in pieces, and I was just like, why is this happening to me? So if I was with my friends, this would have been kind of okay because we could have laughed about it and I would have picked it back up and I'd have been like, oh, sorry. But I was completely on my own, so just remember that. It's like a key point in this. I had a huge bag with me as well, so I was like trying to subtly pick this up because I did not want to have to pay for it, even though I know that that's what I should have done. So I was like scooping this highlighter back into the packet. And I could just feel the eyes of the people watching me, like I knew they had seen me. So I was like shuffling it into the packet and I was just like, please don't say anything, please don't say anything. And I was just like, okay, I'd squished it back together. It was awful. And I put it back on the shelf. And I did like a really sheepish like double take around me, and I just like bolted out of Debenhams. I like walked really quickly. And I really wanted to buy something as well, but at that point I was just like, no, get out, abort mission, buy it from Debenhams at home, just abort mission. And I was like, okay, nothing is going my way today, so I'm gonna go and sit in Hyde Park and read my book, because that was the plan for the afternoon. It was really hot weather, it was too hot to be shopping, and I was meant to be meeting my friend Liv. So you guys know Liv Rook, lives in London, and she was coming to meet me after her day at school. So I went to Hyde Park and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be fine, nothing else can go wrong. Ah, how wrong I was. So I went to Hyde Park. So I like looked around and I found a place to sit. So I was like, okay, I don't want to be too near anybody because I just want to be on my own. So I sat down, and then this person came over to me and was like, you're in my place. What? Hyde Park is a huge park and there was nobody sat there. It was a patch of grass. I was like, I'm just not, am I? I'm like sitting on the grass. But I didn't want to get into a fight with this person. They looked kind of scary. So I was like, oh, I'm sorry, and moved. So I got up, moved all my stuff and sat down in a place that I thought would be more peaceful. I was wrong again. Sat down and I opened my book and I just started it, so I was like just sitting there by myself, you know, and these two lads, oh god, I hate people like this. These two lads came over to me and were like, mind if I sit with you? And I was like, oh god, I'm gonna be kidnapped, I'm gonna be stabbed. These lads were like a little bit older than me. They weren't men, they were like 19 maybe. I just didn't really say anything, and they sat down, and then they were really drunk. Like this bit of the story was actually kind of scary. So these lads were like clearly really drunk. It was about 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon, so I was like, what are you doing? So I was just sat there and I had a newspaper. I was reading the London Evening Standard like before I was reading my book. I sound like such a middle-aged woman. Basically, they'd given me this newspaper on the tube and it was actually really interesting. It was about the attack that had happened in Manchester, so I had that at my feet, and they were like, oh, do you mind if I take your paper? And I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. I thought they'd take my newspaper and leave, but no. They took my newspaper and sat next to me, but the kind of next to me that is way too close, like in my personal bubble. Get out of my personal space. So he sat down and he was like, do you mind if my friend joins me? So at this point I was like, great, I'm gonna be murdered by two people. So this other lad came and sat down and they were like, do you want a cider? And I was like, no thanks. And then they started talking to me and it was just really awkward. And then they were like, oh, what's your name? At this point I panicked and I didn't know what to say, even though I don't know what they could have done even if they did have my name. So I went, oh, my name's Liv, because that's all I could think of. Like, I was meeting my friend Liv, so I just said Liv, and they were like, oh, Liv, like, can I follow you on Instagram? So I was like, sorry, no. And they were like, oh, follow me then. And I was like, no. And I just sat there really, really awkward. And they were like trying to give me these cans of cider. And I was like, no, thank you, no, thank you. And then I was like, I'm going to meet my friend off the tube now. I really did not want to have to walk back to the tube station, because I had walked from the tube station all the way into the park, like the middle of the park. I did not want to go and walk back to the tube station because I was sweating. I had so much stuff with me. But I just wanted to get away from these creepy lads, and I was like, okay, I'm meeting my friend now, and they were like, we'll come with you, and I was like, no, really, please don't, please don't, just take my newspaper, take my book if you want it. I mean, I don't think they could read, that was mean, maybe they could. So I gathered all my stuff up, I was like, for God's sake, and then they screamed at me. They were being so weird, and they were just shouting really weird stuff at me, and I was just like, okay, I'm feeling really uncomfortable now, I'm gonna walk back to the tube station. So then, you think the story's ended, but it hasn't. The lads stayed put, didn't see them again, avoided them, kind of hid in some long grass for a bit until Liv actually got there, because I was getting creeped out by all the weird men in Hyde Park. So Liv finally met me, that was fine, we had a really nice time, we got a Starbucks, that bit was fine, and then Liv left me, we both got on the tube, she went one way, I went the other way, and I headed back to King's Cross. I don't know how I managed to do so many things in one day that were unsuccessful, but the story isn't over yet. So I got to King's Cross with like an hour to spare because I always miss trains, like always miss my train. So I got there really early and I was like, I'll get some food, I'll sit outside, it's a nice night. By this point it was 7:30-ish. So I went to this restaurant near King's Cross, I can't remember the name of it, but they sold like tacos and like Mexican food, and I don't usually eat stuff like that, but I was feeling the vibes on this day. So I got to the front of the queue, and these two policemen were behind me because London was being very, very heavily policed at this time because it was 2 days after the Manchester attack and the security level was like at its highest and there were just police everywhere. So there were police in this restaurant with me, and that instantly puts me on edge. Like, I know that they're there to make you safe, and I love that, and it makes me feel safe, but it also makes me feel like I've done something wrong. So I was stood there like, just ordering my taco, haha, hi. I got to the front and I didn't know what the woman was saying because like she was Mexican or Spanish or some kind of like accent that I didn't really understand. I get so awkward in restaurants and shops. Like, you're probably thinking like I'm quite a confident person, but I'm actually not. I'm really awkward in like situations like this. So I'd already asked her to repeat herself once. You can't ask her to do it again. I'd already said, sorry, what? Didn't understand her the second time she said it, so I just nodded and was like, okay. So then she filled my taco with all of this stuff that I just didn't like. I didn't know what it was. I was just like, I just paid £8 for this and it's disgusting. So I was just walking out with my really disappointing taco in my hand, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go to McDonald's now because I'm really hungry and I don't want this. So I walked around to the front of King's Cross and I sat down because I was like, I might as well just like eat the fries I'd got with it. I think they were fries, I can't really remember. And I sat down and I like unwrapped it and I am so awkward. The entire filling of the taco just fell out onto the floor. Like, all of it. I was just left with the taco in my hand and nothing in it. Like, it was so embarrassing. And there was loads of people around me. So I was like, ha ha, ha. But again, I was on my own. If I was with my friends, this would have been the funniest thing ever because I was with my friends and it would have been funny. But I wasn't. I was on my own. So I was just there like, what do I do with the stuff on the floor? I just walked off because I didn't know what to do. I like put the rest of it in the bin, but I wasn't gonna sit and pick things up off the floor for the second time that day, especially when it was food. So I was like, So I just walked into King's Cross. My God, I love being in London, but right now I just want to get home. So I went into King's Cross and what did I see? My train had been delayed by an hour. Just to top the day off, just in case everything else that had happened wasn't enough, my train was delayed for an hour. Bear in mind, I had been an hour early for the original time. I then had another hour's wait. So I sat on the floor in King's Cross for an hour and a half waiting for this train, and then when the train arrived, because it had been delayed, it was like the next train. So by that point, there were two lots of people, like two lots of train people waiting for the same train. Two lots of people for one train, and there was not enough room. And because I don't even know how it happened, but I ended up having to stand up even though I had a ticket. I'd reserved a ticket on this train, but then two lots of people had reserved tickets and it was all such a nightmare and it was just a pain, and I was like, just get me home. So I ended up standing up between London and Peterborough on my own, again stood up with like a huge bag, and I was just like, this is not my day. I am not having a good day right now. In fact, I'm having a really bad day. I was just there like, not fun. Not fun at all. So yeah, that concludes my tragic day that I spent in London one time. I have been to London since then. I've had a really good time. I love London. It was just a really bad day where everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and it was just one of those times where I was like, I just know that I'm not having very good luck right now. So yeah, I thought I'd share it with you because it was quite funny and none of it is exaggerated. I really wish I was lying about it, but it actually did all happen, and I'm just such an awkward person that I thought I'll share the story with you guys on YouTube so that you can laugh at me as well, because it was quite funny. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this story time, be sure to give the video a huge thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe down below if you're not already subscribed, and I will see you very soon with another upload. I'll be uploading a weekly vlog on Saturday morning, so be sure to tune in then. But yeah, I'll see you all very, very soon. Bye guys!